So today I would like to introduce our speaker, who is also a Cornell student, but right now after he graduates from Cornell, he actually has a lot of decisions on how to make a change from one job to another. He had experience in building startups, and he also has some intern experience in BCG. And later after that, he chose to not to do consulting anymore and to switch to Amazon. And right now he's a senior data scientist on Facebook. So I feel he has his name is being tied with so many big names of these great companies. And especially during our personal interaction, I also know Yuzhen had also wanted to stay in academia, but later he made a transition and go to non-academia world. So I'm really excited to be able to have him as our the speaker of our second episode. And I think you will also learn a lot, especially at this stage of your PhD. You are having some you probably want to stay in academia, and you also want to explore the world outside. And I think you will benefit a lot from today's talk. So Bihe, can you introduce the rules?
Yeah, just a couple of housekeeping rules before we start. So we would appreciate it if you mute yourself during the talk to eliminate background noise, but feel free to open your camera if you want. And then at the end of the talk, we'll leave a lot of time for Q&A, which I think is going to be the more interesting part, where you can actually directly ask Yuzhen any questions. If you want to ask directly, then just type raise hand in the chat box, and then we will give the mic to you. If you're a bit shy, you can type in the questions in the chat box, and then one of us will read it out loud. Please don't ask too many questions, maybe not more than 2, but definitely encourage everyone to at least ask 1 question. I think, last thing, when you're asking questions, it'd be great to turn on your video, because it just always feels more personal to see the person face to face. So that's pretty much everything. Should we give the floor to our speaker?
Definitely. So I just stopped sharing. Yuzhen, can you start sharing?
Hi. Yeah, so thank you for inviting us. Thank you for having this series. I'm going to talk about that in my presentation as well, because that is one of the biggest lessons I learned as well, like looking back to my PhD years, that I didn't spend much time knowing what's out there. So just stayed on my academia path for too long, and that is one of my biggest regret of my life. Otherwise, I'll be much richer than what I am right now. Okay. So thank you. And one more thing, sometimes I do not control the pace of my speak well. And if you find something unclear, feel free to interrupt me and ask me to repeat what do I actually mean. All right, I'll start sharing. Okay. So from econ PhD to tech, I guess the first part is going to be a brief introduction of my journey. And the second is my lessons and kind of my 3 advices. So self-intro, this is just a screenshot of my LinkedIn. Right now, I'm a senior data scientist on Facebook. I do Facebook e-commerce, not the Facebook shops, the marketplace citizenship. So if you I guess most of us are from China, is kind of Xianyu in the American version. And before that, I was an economist at Amazon. So so the difference between these 2 jobs, at Amazon as an economist, I get to do a lot of what I do in PhD. So I read academic papers, I do models, I run machine learning causal inference models. But as a data scientist at Facebook, I mostly just do SQL to get data, and then Tableau to plot 2 charts. Basically, I just plot bar charts. And then I do kind of analytics. So I tell people what does the data mean and how does that drives our decisions. So I'm basically using, I guess, second year statistical information. I'm not doing anything that is related to my PhD education. And I'm actually pretty happy about my current job. And I'll talk later about path dependent. And we don't need to just use what we learned. We should unconstrained optimization. But let's save the talk later. And before that, it was Cornell, PhD in economics. And it's 6 years. And I hope this stays as 4 years. Then I would have much more experience and join the tech companies much earlier. But okay, on the right is my dissertation. So the dissertation is about firms, investors, and stock market. My job market paper is the real impact of IPO. So using some natural shock happened in China to understand the real impact of IPO on like the impact of IPO on real economy. But now, when I look back into my dissertation, I don't even care about what conclusion I drew because it has no impact on the real world. Okay. And before I graduate, so I graduated in August 2017. And before I graduate, I spent 3 months as a summer consultant at BCG in Beijing office. I liked the experience a lot, but for some personal reasons, I chose to came back to United States and be in tech. And during my PhD, so these are during my PhD, I had some very strange, I guess, abnormal or not normal experiences as a PhD student. We founded a ramen shop in New York City. And we did some, I guess, college grocery delivery business at Cornell. So it's almost like Amazon Fresh. We ran weekly delivery from New York City to Cornell campuses and deliver to student dorms. So definitely raise an eyebrow. These are some screenshots. This is the ramen shop. And we did a holiday market by a Korean town. That was like, we go there every morning and the market starts at 11, I think. Then we just make Japanese ramen and we close at, I forgot, maybe 9 p.m. And then we wash the pots, the dishes, and do it all over again the next day. Not me, so, but I helped. And this is the picture for the college grocery. So we made posters. We collaborate with a New York City Chinese grocery store, and we deliver other stuff to campuses. So this is you get an order on our website. We get your stuff in New York City, and we deliver to you. And this is kind of our delivery. So this car goes from New York City to Ithaca, and in boxes. So we hire cashiers at New York City, put the stuff into boxes, and then we sort into individual orders. We had to do this because we didn't have a big enough car from New York City to Ithaca. All right, so all those experiences, right? What is my biggest lesson? The biggest lesson is I enjoy my life much better than after PhD than I was during PhD. So during PhD, I also lived, I don't know, like I like to explore. I like to do different things. But when I have this constant fear of failing, that what if I don't get my PhD? What if I fail at academia? My peers are studying and doing research, and they're so much smarter than me. What I'm doing, enjoying my life. So I like if I go out and just have some fun, I would have a lot of self-guilt, and that is not a very pleasant feeling. When you are anxiety and fear, I guess. So after PhD, because I sell my time to the company, I get to separate work versus life. no matter how much hours I put in my work, I get to enjoy my own life. So an anecdote story is in BCG Beijing, the hours were quite crazy. So I had to work 9 a.m. to about average 2 a.m. Sometimes I go home at 12 and I feel like today is a very lucky day because I get to go home 12 a.m. And sometimes you have to go home at 5 a.m. and wake up the next day, wake up the same day, sleeping like 3 hours. But I still felt better than my PhD. That was during my PhD time, like that was before my graduation. I still feel better doing the consulting work with such a long hour than than my experience during PhD because I get to separate work and life. So and I get to quite like be myself basically after work, and that felt very good. And the last thing to mention is the living expenses. You get to earn much more after PhD, so that's a big bonus. And this is kind of my Instagram story archive. So a lot happening since I graduated from PhD. Yeah, I get to do things. Yeah, that's lesson number one. And if I could do my PhD all over again, what would I do? So first, I didn't have this theory. I didn't have this world beyond academia theory when I was in PhD. If I had that, maybe I can realize much sooner that academia is not what I want to do. So the first thing I want to do is admit that I don't want to do academia in my second year instead of my sixth year. I stayed in PhD for 6 years because I always think that, you know, the best people in my best peers, they're doing academia. And that is how PhD is supposed to do, how we are supposed to do academia. So I came here to do academia. I should do academia. If I feel like I don't want to do academia, that is just because things are getting too hard. So I'm quitting. I equate not interested in academia as finding excuse for quitting. So I just stayed for too long. If I realize if I realize that I honestly do not want to do PhD, I would have told my committee that I don't want to do academia as soon as I found that. And then I'll start looking for industry internships. So I didn't do any industry internships during my PhD. So the BCG is my first kind of internship experience during my PhD. I would have done industry internships, and that would prepare me for much better position or situation when I was looking for industry jobs. Then I would have finished my PhD in 4 years instead of 6, because I don't think there was any extra value for me or for the society by me staying in my PhD program for 6 years. One thing I'm not sure if it's achievable, but maybe if I realize I don't want to do academia, that is during my PhD, I should have separated my work from my life. I should have just have work hours and not think about the research and the stuff I do after the work hours. Because when I think back, I have self-guilt. I feel guilty not working. So I constantly think about my work, but it didn't help my productivity. I feel like looking back, if I separated my work and the life, I could be more productive in work and be much happier in life. So that is another lesson. All right. So 3 advices after having this lesson and spending a couple of years after academia. Advice number 2 is know yourself, because I didn't, and I wasn't completely honest with myself. And I think it's a very easy bias, like not knowing yourself is common, knowing yourself is difficult. So know what is your true interest and your strengths. Like we are all good at studying, we are all good at reading papers, we are all good at doing research. That's why we are here. But beyond that, what is your strengths? And most importantly, what actually drives you? Like, do you feel excited doing research? So I was, okay. So this part of the reason I stayed in academia for very long is I was actually very interested in research. I was in empirical corporate finance, and I actually found the papers very interesting. And I enjoy reading papers, and I enjoy doing research. But even with that, I still feel like I do not want to do academia, because what actually drives me is having an impact on the world. I don't feel like I was doing that by doing research. Like the paper I write, I don't think it can actually create the impact I wanted to. I want for myself. Yeah. So understanding your underlying motivation is very important. And then have be honest about what are your resources and what you can do. And sometimes knowing this takes trying. Like you don't know what you don't know, right? So you have to try. Like in tech, they build this minimal viable products to validate your assumptions. Sometimes it doesn't take much. For example, coming to this series and listen to what's beyond academia is a way of knowing. Doing internships is a great way to try, if you like, to really get to know the day-to-day of different jobs and really understand if that is what you want to do, right? And also when you try, now there are a lot of two-way door decisions, especially when you are in PhD. So for example, if you do an internship in industry, if you don't like it, you can still come back. You can still do academia. So a lot of decisions are two-way door. That means you can just try and come back. There is not much harm for trying. So definitely take those opportunities and try. Like the industry internship or the industry experiences, even if you decide to do academia, would be good for your research and for academic job, because you know, like for example, what kind of data is out there, what people actually care about. And maybe you build some connections, maybe like like having multiple dimension of experiences is going to help you, not going to hurt you. Advice number 2 is unconstrained optimization is always better than constrained, maybe a bigger than or equal to, but it's like most of the case is better, right? Sometimes it's equal. And sometimes we stuck in academia for too long. And that is, I guess, echoes Bihe's earlier point that a lot of people stay in academia because 1, they don't know what they can do outside of academia, and 2, they want to they spend so much time in academia, they spend so much time in research, they want to use that, they want to play that strength, and they don't want to just give it up. But that is, I guess, bias itself. Like, just think about what makes you happy tomorrow, or in 10 years, or in 20 years of your life. It's not going to be like, a lot of cases, it's not going to be just, repeating what you did for the past 10 years. Like if today there are 2 choices, option number 1 leads to a better life in 10 years, or even in 1 year. Option number 2 is doing what you have been doing or what you are good at, but you are going to be less happy in 1 year. Choose option number 1. Don't choose option number 2 just because you did option number 2 for such a long time, right? So do unconstrained optimization. Don't let your past constrain you. So past dependent, sunk cost, loss aversion, those are things that stop you from trying new things. And I talked about this earlier, like really be honest about yourself. Not only like admitting your strengths and your shortcomings, but also, sometimes it's also okay to quit, and know that it's okay to quit. I guess for me, it was my ego and pride, or like my self discipline that got into my way of admitting I'm not interested in academia. So it goes both ways, right? So really be completely honest with yourself. And the cost, the second part is the cost. A lot of times, the cost of not acting is bigger than the risk of acting. And PhD, the program definitely gives you a shelter, an excuse to not act. What do I mean by this? If you are a PhD, in Western schools, right? It's 5 years program. It is a very long time, and the program doesn't ask you much results until the end, because they want to give you some freedom to really focus and do research without the worry that next week what I have to do, next month what I have to do. They give you some stipend, and they give you a very lenient environment, and to tell you, just focus on research. So it's a shelter to not trying different things, because, for example, for me, before every summer I stayed at Cornell and did extra research. I usually apply for summer RA or TA, and then I stay at school and I go to library every day to do research instead of applying for an internship. And I felt pretty good about my decision because I was focusing on research. I didn't waste any of my time. But now, if you ask me what did I do summer of, I don't know, 2015, I don't remember. I don't remember what paper I read. I don't remember what research I did. I feel like it's not complete waste of time, but it is a waste of time. So that was the cost of me not acting to apply for summer internship. And I guess that's an easy trap for a lot of PhD because the program is set up this way. So think about what is the cost of you not acting, and what is the risk if you actually act. A lot of the time, the risk of acting is very small. You actually benefit from acting, and the cost of not acting is ignored. Advice number 3 is really know what's out there. And this one I think is I guess in terms of risk reward, is definitely everyone should just know. You should know your options beyond academia, right? So coming to this talk again, it's great. Your options, what industries you can go. Like I hear a lot of you either come from consulting or come from or want to do consulting. Consulting is a great industry. Later on I'll post a screenshot of my YouTube channel, and I talked about the value of consulting that brings to the firm that hires consultants. I think it's a great industry. But beyond consulting, there are also a lot of other industries that just hire a PhD because you are a PhD. For example, tech hires all sorts of people to solve their problems, whether it's data, whether it's optimization, like some operation research, and sometimes it's even like material science, mechanical engineering. Like they hire all sorts of PhD. So know your options. I guess consulting and data, all the PhDs can just get into and try. So know what's really like. Know your average salary, know your career path, and what do they do day to day. Yeah, really know what do they do. So then you can fairly assess, are you going to be interested in this type of job, or should you do something else? And also know your option if you choose to do something else. For example, if you just take a computer science master, or if you go do some internship, or if you prepare an interview for half a year, or maybe you take some, I don't know, machine learning courses, and you build a resume that way. It will open a lot of different options for you. So know, based on your current capacity and based on what you can do in a year, know options and really do the unconstrained optimization. And then I guess the last part is chance of success. And that leads to my next slide. how to increase your chance of success of getting what you want to, what you try to get. So find the gap between what you want to do. The first is know what you want to do, right? And know other industries, know what career you want to choose. For example, a lot of you want to do consulting, that's great. Then what is the gap between your current resume, between your current knowledge, experiences, projects? Do you have the right internships to get to consulting? Are they going to take your resume and give you an interview? And then you need to prepare for interviews, right? And sometimes building connections can give you either recommendations, referral, or just give you some knowledge and tell you what's the most effective way to prepare for interview or to bridge out gap. So this is, I guess, an action item. Know what's out there, have an access, like a fair, honest access, access of yourself, and then start acting to close the gap. I have a YouTube video about data science, what data scientists do. And today I'm going to meet with a friend and shoot another video to talk about how to close the gap to get into data science. So what companies are looking for, and how do you prepare, what materials do you need to do to prepare for to close the gap. So stay tuned and subscribe. All right, so this is a screenshot of my YouTube channel. For example, talk about A/B testing, talk about how AI is applied in big tech companies, what is management consulting, and what is data science. I have some Zhihu articles. Maybe in the future I will also make videos based on these articles. But this one, for example, talks about how you prepare for mock interview. I guess, okay, a little bit about myself. Maybe here. Yeah, it's all going to be okay. Yeah, a little bit about myself in the end. So one, because you're a PhD, you're all smart and diligent. Otherwise, you won't be able to get here. A lot of us have imposter syndrome that, we got here because of luck or because, but everyone, all my peers are smarter than me, so I must be the imposter, I must be faking it. No, you deserve the PhD. You're smart and diligent. And you actually have better resource than most people. I'm not only talking about your advisors, your professors, the class you can take. You can take most classes for free as a PhD. So take those classes, do the projects, build your resume. But also, even if you try to fake, right? If you want to, for example, a lot of people in tech, AI is very easy to fake, not to fake, but very easy to get to know. For example, machine learning is just basically it takes a month or maybe 3 months to get to know AI well if you really prepare for it. So if you take 3 months and prepare learn about AI, and then you take another 3 months write a paper about AI, maybe it's useful, maybe it's not. But HR, because you are a PhD, will pay attention to you, and it will boost your resume and give you a chance to most tech companies. So that is the resource that many people do not have. Then you can maximize your experience on one dimension. You maximize the experience on one dimension. So when I was doing consulting, I was back in Beijing, and my peers, people who are at my same age, I hang out with people who do startups, and a lot of them were quite successful. They started companies that are well-known names, and they had, if they went to industry, some of them are directors. They were quite successful. But I feel like I didn't waste my time doing PhD because because I had the title of PhD. I maximized my experience on academia, and so doing PhD in academia is really playing at a very high level, right? And not many people get to see that. So if you draw an analogy in sports, it's almost like playing a youth team for a football club, right? You got to the top level, you know what the top level looks like. Or like if you founded a mildly successful startup, I feel like you know what does it take to be a truly successful startup. But you interact with the best scholars in the world, and you have this title that stays with you for your whole life that says, you are a PhD, you complete a great deal in academia, and you are one of the smartest people in the world. So that's great. It's all going to be okay. I want to, one last thing about myself. Yeah. I spent 6 years in academia, and only to realize on my 6th year that I don't really want to do academia. So I applied the BCG, going back to my resume, I applied the BCG job, I think December 2016, and got the internship January 27, got the interview January 2017. I prepared a week for my mock interviews and got the internship and got in. So one is I had article about how to prepare mock interviews, how to prepare the interviews efficiently. But two, I feel like that's a lucky shot. And then at Amazon, like I didn't apply to any tech jobs. Amazon is the only one applied. I got the interview and I got in. And later I discovered that is kind of one of the best jobs that I can ever have. So a lot of this is luck, but I don't think it's purely luck. It's also because I have the title, I had some experiences during PhD, and I actually spend the time and really prepare for the interview. So there are a lot of things you can do much better than I did by starting early. So that was all my advice and lessons. If I knew this in my 2nd year, I would prepare myself so well that I couldn't fail. So yeah, that is my lessons and advices. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Eugen. That's very helpful. And I think, what's really impressive is how genuine you are in sharing your thoughts and experience. And it's really encouraging to people who might be having second doubts about themselves. Before, and people in the audience, feel free to ask questions or type in your questions. But we've had a couple coming in, and I feel like because your experience is so broad, people might ask all sorts of questions, and it could be, loosely categorized into your experience as an economist, and then, having startups yourselves, and then transitioning into a data scientist, and now, having your own YouTube channel, and then some people might just want some general advice for you. So let's try to maybe group our questions in this kind of categories. Anyone wants to be the first person asking a question live?
Hello? Hello?
Hi, Fumi, we can hear you.
Okay. So would you advise to someone who is interested in going into the industry later to...
Sorry for me, enable the video sharing, because that's the rule we set for Q&A if you want to ask question live.
What's the rule?
Yeah, there's a rule for Q&A. If you want to ask in person, it's better to just share a video.
Oh, to turn on the video?
Correct.
Oh,
unnecessary.
All right.
Sorry, I didn't prepare.
Okay. Yeah, feel free.
Okay. Would it be better to try to finish the PhD faster or utilize the summer to do internships? And how would you compare the problems in financial markets to consumer markets? 2 questions.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, the first one, I think it's easy, but I didn't get the second one, so I'll ask for clarification. The first one, like internship is ready to try out, right? And build a resume. If you have a like good enough resume, and if you know what you need to do, then just finish a PhD and do that. But if you don't, then definitely, try as many internships and until you have a good enough resume to do the things you know you want to do. The second question, financial markets and consumer markets, was that like, is it choosing between the industry or?
Are the problems similar or different?
The promise?
How are the problems similar or different?
Oh, okay. I guess it's about how did I apply my knowledge of a finance PhD, like economics concentrated in finance, to consumer markets, right? A lot of tools and skills can be carried over. For example, I did apply econometrics. I did causal inference for the corporate finance study. For example, matching, difference in difference, all those causal inference stuff. And those tools can be directly applied to solve consumer markets problems. That's why Amazon hired me to do, or what they hired me to do. But again, going back to not limiting myself, I guess I didn't, this reminds me, I promised to talk about the difference between data scientists and economics, and forgot to do that. Like, it doesn't, like, what drives me is to solve problems and create impact. And it doesn't take complicated model to solve problems. In a lot of cases, if the problem is worth solving, like comparing the two means, or finding where the problem is much more important than being able to build sophisticated models. Of course, there are problems that needs to be solved by sophisticated models, and I'm also like mildly interested in doing that, but that is not how I think about my career. When I think about my career, it's not about how to apply my past knowledge. It's about what problems excite me. So I guess to sum up, some of the skills are transferable, but the domain knowledge, for example, is definitely not relevant. And yeah, I don't feel sorry for that.
Great, thank you. Anyone else got a question?
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Machen. I have one question about the startup. So I'm curious, what happened to your startup in the end?
Oh, we closed College Grocery while in Ithaca because it's actually a very heavy operation. Like it takes a lot of operations. For example, you have to do customer service. You have to maintain a good relationship with the grocery store. If you get one kind of vinegar, but they're out of stock, do you replace or do you refund? There are a lot of like tricky like things that takes time, and nobody was willing to do that after I left. So just and Bob is still operating in New York City. I hope the pandemic didn't make them bankrupt. But they had 3, I think, shops in New York City.
Okay, I see. Yeah, so I have a second question, which is a little personal. So what's the intention when you decided to like build up a startup? Is it like to try to make a lot of money, or like just a random decision to try different things?
Yeah, good question, because that's actually my motivation for doing a lot of things, including start a YouTube channel. It's never about the money. It's just about seeing a problem and I want to solve it. And I have a big drive to solve the problem. The startup started because I go to New York City quite often. And every time I go there, people ask me, can you bring us some grocery back? I'm willing to pay you like 50% above the recipe, the price. And I said, okay, there is a real demand. Let's try to solve it. And that's how it started. We started with a Google form, and then turned into a Wix website, and then turned into a Shopify website. In retrospect, it actually helped a lot of my current experiences, because Facebook is doing the Facebook shops with Shopify, and my experiences of running a Shopify store actually helped me understand a lot of e-commerce business in general. But that was never the plan.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, may I ask one question? Okay. Thank you, Eugen. I'm also a PhD student in economics, so I know that Amazon has already established the economics team, while Facebook is relatively new in building its economics team. So I'm curious that how do you feel about working in these two companies? Do you feel more like familiar in Amazon environment compared to in Facebook?
There are two very different companies, even though they are in tech. I would say there is a more difference between Facebook and Amazon than between Amazon and BCG even. And I don't think Facebook is going to hire a lot of economists to do the economist, because at Facebook, it provides a free product. They can run A/B testing for almost everything. And Amazon hires economics mostly to do causal inference. But Facebook can do A/B testing, they don't need to do this. But my training of economics PhD helped me to, I guess the training is helpful. I also have a very short video about this. It forced me to think about equilibrium and think about marginal. And when you solve problem at tech companies, you'll find a lot of people, they focus on the first order effect of your policy. For example, if you set a price floor, right, it will make people sell more expensive stuff, but they didn't think about the substitution effect or the income effect or whatever. They didn't think about the second order problem. And a lot of the time, the second order impact is more important. So I guess the training of economics PhD, if you have the sufficient tech skill, like if you can write SQL well, if you can do analysis fast, if you can do data manipulation in Python, then combined with our economics degree, is quite welcomed at any company, consulting or tech. But yeah, like don't expect other tech companies to hire economists as Amazon does. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a related question on that actually. When I first joined McKinsey, I actually spent 3 months working on a data science project, and my role was what they call a data translator. So our project was around something that's got to do with clinical and pharmaceutical applications of data science. And we had half of our team pure data scientists and data engineers, and the other half people with a medical degree or a PhD in biological sciences. So I'm wondering that, outside of maybe, consulting related data science projects in the real data science industry, is there a need for this kind of roles of people who may not be coding, but they know something about data science to translate the business or clinical or consumer aspect of the industry?
Yes, but okay. So the world of consulting is pretty different than the world of tech. And related to a question in this way, consulting deals with a lot of companies, right? They don't necessarily have the expertise to understand those complex analysis or complex research. So they need a translator. In tech, everyone should know tech. Like they have a very high hiring bar for BA engineers or product manager. So everyone knows their shit, basically. They don't need a translator to translate. Otherwise, they will just fail at their job because that's the expectation. They know their stuff. That being said, like for example, people in business function, they don't necessarily they're not necessarily well versed in models. For example, they understand what's the difference between correlation and causation. They know to get this, you have to overcome selection bias. They know, on a very high level what machine learning can do and cannot do. But sometimes if you want to, for example, translate a debiased mean and like a normal mean, how does that translate into business impact? They don't know that, they don't have that knowledge for granted. So I guess in order to be successful in tech as a PhD, knowing, have the domain expertise and have the knowledge, the skill is important, but being able to communicate to a way that most people, like engineers and PMs, you can expect them to have a certain type of level of knowledge, but not as sophisticated as you are. Being able to communicate is also important. So that is a skill. That is not a type of job. That is more of a skill that you should have in order to be successful.
May I ask a question?
Sorry, go ahead.
Thanks for each and very informational talk. So my question is that as a PhD of economics, you have all the backgrounds of the economics and the statistics. So the job for a consultant is kind of like fit for you because you have all the knowledges. So as engineering student as me, I don't have a lot of economics background. So do you have any advice for me to get some resources to get those knowledges to prepare for the future consultant or potential jobs at these kind of fields?
Good question. So my friend who prepared me for my interview is a biochemistry PhD. The first consultant I worked with is a mechanical engineering PhD. I would say there are less social science PhD at consultant than there are engineering or science PhDs. When I did the consulting interview, they didn't care about my economics background. They care about how I performed in case interviews. They care about my business sense, but they didn't care about my degree. And a lot of times, I think having a hard science background gives you the extra edge because you can actually understand the hard problems that your clients are facing. So for example, if your client is an auto manufacturer, then being a mechanical engineer and PhD is a very good boost.
So thanks. So is there a fundamental requirement to let the HR think, oh, you are at least being able to understand those economics fundamentals? Is there a class I need to take or you advise me to take for the
internship? Is the best way to signal that you are qualified to HR. So get a PTA, get an internship at a second-tier consulting company. Get the best internship you can get. That's okay. How you signal to HR.
I see. Thanks.
I guess I can follow up on this question. So for me personally, I'm considering a transfer future goal is to start a startup. But there are basically a lot of ways I can take to achieve that goal. So right now I'm thinking about two things. The first way is to enter consulting for a couple of years, build up my connections, and then use that connections and resources to help me to build a successful startup. A second, but this is actually one of the things in the previous talk, the previous speaker was really, he doesn't like this idea because he's running startups. And he would recommend that instead of going to consulting, I should consider joining a startup directly. So how do you compare these two different tracks if my future goal is to build a company?
So I think that there are too many variables in that decision. Like, for example, if you know the startup is going to be successful, then do that. But I guess that's uncertainty, right? So the safe path is to join industry, build our experience, and take the chance when you feel you need to, or it's safe for you to, or when its likelihood of success is like high enough. But I guess different people have this different risk appetite and different expertise. So I don't know how I can give a recommendation.
Okay.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Hi.
Ask the question, Tao Jing.
Yeah, hi. I'm curious about you're as a senior data scientist. I'm curious about what the most important techniques or tools you are using in your daily work. I wonder if there's any gaps between just for the data science. Is there a gap between the industry and the lab? Because I'm working on some like a very complicated deep learning or machine learning models. I'm curious if that is useful in your real work in industry.
Yes, very. So I guess my two different jobs, right? Facebook, what I do is I run SQL to get data, and I use Tableau to plot the data, and then I use PPT to present the data. That's almost it. And then I write docs. I guess the writing training I received at PhD was actually quite useful. I'm able to produce high quality notes. It's almost like a mini research paper at a good speed. So that helped me to land a lot of impact. I sometimes use Python to do data cleaning and do some simple analysis models, but I often use Tableau because the problem just requires Tableau to solve. A/B testing is a must at Facebook, being able to do causal inference based on A/B testing, design the experiment, so data are not contaminated, all those things are a must. At Amazon, I use Spark, Python mostly because the infrastructure at Amazon is not as good as Facebook. So I have to get the data. I have to basically set up the machines, the servers to get the data and build the data pipeline and clean the data and then use Python to run some. What I did is synthetic cohort and matrix completion. So simple machine learning models, not deep learning models, to draw causal inference based on big data sets. But I feel like if you can code deep learning model, all the tech requirements should be easy. It's just about preparing for the interview, sharpening our communication, and we have a video incoming to talk about that.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for your presentation and your insight so far. And I'm currently a master's student, and my question is about getting a job in the US after having a PhD degree. And so as far as I know, in some countries, such as in Germany, sometimes getting a PhD degree is not a good thing because sometimes the companies thinks that you are overqualified for the job, and sometimes they don't want to hire you because they will need to pay you more as compared to a master or a bachelor degree holder. And so sometimes, having a PhD degree makes you less competitive for the job. So my question is, can you tell me the situation in the US? Can you give me some insight of having is getting a PhD degree is a good thing and it helps you to easier finding a job in the US? Yeah, thank you. It's my question.
Yeah, so that's my first advice is not to answer a question, is to don't get a PhD if your purpose is just to boost our job competitive, or like if your purpose is to make it easier to apply for a job, don't get into PhD. PhD is designed for research, for academia. Like we happen to be trained well to be able to do other things, but if you don't like research or academia, it's very difficult to survive. Like I found it difficult to survive myself, even though I liked every piece of my research and the reading papers. I was able to like just study, like do research like for months without doing anything else. But even that was not a pleasant experience. So it's not worth it to to spend 5 years in PhD just to be able to increase the likelihood of getting a job. I feel like if you apply to an internship and climb up the corporate ladder or whatever, it's much easier. But yeah, and I guess the relative competition, or like, is it easier for PhD to get jobs? I think yes, because most of my PhD friends, if they want to go to industry, if they want to find a job, they can always do that. I haven't seen one case that they want to find a job but they couldn't. Either like even if they couldn't stay in the United States, they can easily find a job back home.
Yeah. So one more quick question is that you think that the ranking of the university is a critical point? I mean, an important point in finding a job. I mean, do the HR people will
Yes.
pay a lot of attention to the ranking?
Yes.
Okay.
In the future, yes.
Thank you.
Hey, I have a question. So you just said that like you are actually very interested in academia and very used to the lifestyle there, but it's still difficult to survive academia. I wonder, like, is that difficult? I mean, like, because like you graduate from Cornell and you got a PhD. I feel like if you want to go into the academia, you can do that, right? I mean. So and also I feel like actually like from your description of your past PhD life, I feel like, yeah, I feel like you're like, it's very suitable. Like I just wonder why you changed the path. Like, thanks.
If you want to be successful in academia, it's not impossible to do. I guess it's not very hard to do as well. Or like, if you want to survive, it's not hard to do. If you want to do well, it's difficult, but it's still possible. My choice was more related to that, I realized that academia is not my passion. I'm passionate about a very small part of it. The part of, being intellectually challenged, solve the questions nobody have solved before, like those parts. But I didn't like, rewriting the paper 100 times, going through a referee process, discussing all the like detail that nobody care about in seminars or with our peers. All those things were like very painful to me, and that was not my passion. I feel like I can, like, for example, consulting is a great place to find the same intellectual challenge, but solve problem that people actually care about. Yeah.
I see. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions from the audience? I think I see that there is a debate in the chat box about the requirement for advanced degree, in the necessity of it if you were to go to industry. I think the clarification that we need to make here is, if you think about different career options on the spectrum, and you rank it whether it's further away from pure research or closer, and I would probably put industry jobs as on the closer end of the spectrum to your actual research, and maybe consulting, banking, or VC on the other spectrum. And there's another dimension, which is also the requirement of specific knowledge and expertise, and that's kind of the reverse to the spectrum. So maybe you probably don't 100% need a PhD to go to industry, but you probably need a master's or related, undergraduate degree. And to be honest, I would say higher percentage would require a related advanced degree. But if you go to the other spectrum, if you were to go into banking, consulting, or anything else, it's completely not a requirement at all. In that case, they will probably put more weight on other factors on your CV, such as your, the ranking of your university, the diversity of your extracurricular, and any other passion you've shown for their industry or sector.
Yeah, that's a good summary. Like, I guess the one end of the spectrum is being a professor, right? You 100% need a PhD. And being a researcher, probably a PhD will help. But I guess the previous question is about, if I want to apply for a job, is PhD going to help me be more successful? If you want to be a professor or a researcher, you wouldn't ask this question because you need a PhD. So it's also, I guess my answer was to the case that a PhD is an option, but not a necessity. Then how should you choose? And my advice is don't do it. It's not worth it.
I have a question. I have one more question on the data science career of yours, because a lot of people around me seem to be wanting to be a data scientist. Actually, everyone wants to be a data scientist nowadays, and a lot of them have zero background in anything related. They're probably in bioinformatics or in physics or even chemistry. So I wanted to know from people around you who are proper data scientists, what is their background? How many people are actually from non-computer science, non-math, non-economics background? And what do you see are kind of subjects or topics or kind of their PhD areas that could be a higher likelihood for them to enter data science?
So first, data science is not a high bar. If a PhD have done quantitative research, whether psychology PhD or physics PhD, their skill set is good enough for a data scientist. Because data scientist is about application and about solving problems, analytics application and solving problems. It's not about building the most sophisticated models, right? And they actually, like companies hire specifically for machine learning engineers, or research scientists, or applied scientists that go and build models and solve the cutting edge problems in artificial intelligence. For example, how to make Amazon's recommendation system better. That requires specific domain knowledge. But for my current role, data scientist, as I said, like second year, like sophomore level statistic in college, not in PhD, is enough to handle most cases. So if you have done quantitative research, you have the skill set. Yeah, like I forgot what the question was. Did that answer the question?
Yes.
Yeah, like most PhDs, they're qualified. It's just about the experience and the interview. So get your resume to pass the HR stage and then prepare the interview so the hiring manager hires you.
Thank you.
Okay, like I might have a question, like Eugene, and you mentioned that it would be much better if you could have start your job, start preparing for your job, like searching at the second year of your PhD. But my question is that, like usually, like a lot of research takes a long time, like much more than 2 years to even get on track. So, but how, like, what's your suggestion on like determining like what's the starting point, like because I discussed with some of my friends on like when to decide it is the time to quit or to continue. Like my idea is more like maybe it is more about the rewarding you have, like the more rewards you have during your PhD as academic research, and then probably will continue more on this trend, on this path. Like I just want to hear about like your thoughts on when to decide on your path. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So I guess I need to clarify. That was my own lesson and what I would have done differently if I started again. Everyone's situation is different. So my advice is know your interest, know your strengths, and know yourself, basically. And then make the decision based on your own scenario, not mine, right? But for me, the reason I said I wanted to start in my second year is, of course, like my research would take a long time to build, but I stayed 6 years. I wanted to do academia. I had the counterfactual, right? I wanted to do academia. I stayed those years, but I wasn't particularly proud of my research paper. Like, it is an important topic. I think it's a nicely written paper, but there was no impact. And because what drives me is impact, right? So I don't care. Like if I stay in my PhD for 4 years and had a much crappier paper, I would actually be happier today. So that's why I said if I do it again, I would start in my second year. But I know everyone's different, so definitely just make a decision based on our own scenario.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks.
I guess to follow up on that, Yuzheng, is there a moment in your current life when you think back, you say, okay, if I were to continue academia, maybe I will be a professor. Do you have so you have no moments of regret, right? Just
first, it's not helpful to regret things, right? Like I said, I would do it. I would do it differently, but that is more as an advice for like these people who are in the PhD program. If I choose my life, I wouldn't necessarily want to do it all over again because I'm happy with my current life, right? So everything that leads to my current life, I think, that they're good. I don't have any particular regrets. And it took me 6 years to realize I wasn't in academia. Maybe that's what I need. If I change my decision in my second year, maybe I will always have self-doubt, then maybe I'll have questions like you just mentioned, what if? Today I don't have what if because I suffered those 6 years and I realized, that's not my passion.
Okay, that's a good point. And of the jobs you did, I know you had experience startup in some experience in consulting and now data scientist. What is the job you like most, or the best, or you think the best is yet to come? So what are you thinking right now?
On my current job.
Oh,
yeah. Otherwise I would have so I guess some data points to back my claim. Amazon has a very particular stock vesting schedule. So when you go to a tech company, they give you stocks for 4 years. But Amazon, the first year it vests 5%, second year 15%, third and fourth 40% each. And when I joined Amazon stock was at 800 something. Now it's at 3,000. So I was actually underpaid in Facebook when I took the Facebook job. And so I get paid less at Facebook than I was at Amazon. But I wanted to try the job, so I came. Like if I'm not happy at Facebook, I would go to another job.
Great. Any other questions from the audience?
I guess we have a lot of comments in the chat box.
I try to speak because I cannot.
Yeah, Feel free.
Yeah, I was muted. I have two buttons need to unmute. So I mute one and the other still muted, so you cannot hear me. Can you hear me now? Okay. So I put some text comments because previously I got some technical problems to unmute both. So it's good. It's good communication. We can talk more. So today, like I put in the comments, things are changing. Like 20, 30 years ago, if you have PhD, the industry labs will value you more, but today it can be different. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at the discussion in the chats. I think there are two things I want to address. One is like still like we focus on the job that requires a PhD. So if you are a PhD, that is our advantage because these jobs you all have a comparative advantage of being a PhD. So as a PhD, definitely focus on those jobs, or not focus, but pay more attention to those jobs and apply, and you will be successful. I don't know the future, but at least they're good jobs. But the second is like for example, a lot of big companies have do research. They have their research department. Yes, and but don't take an industry job as an escape when you cannot do academia well. Like, for example, the Google AI or Facebook AI research, those are they hire the best PhDs, right? Like if you want to get into the very good, the promising industry research career, you need to be very good at academia, at research, and creating research that actually has an impact. So I guess those are my 2 points.
Yeah, the AI is a unique area because the companies like Google, Amazon, they try to hire the best AI scientists, develop the most advanced algorithms. So, but to develop the AI applications, they don't need or desire to have PhDs.
Yeah, and I talk about that in my YouTube channel as well. I feel like a lot of industry application of machine learning is actually an engineering problem, not a science problem. You don't need to develop algorithm to do that. You just need to apply the Python packages to solve. You need to define the problem. Then you need to apply the right Python packages to solve it.
Does anyone have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, I would like to ask the final question.
Okay, yeah, so the final one.
Yeah, thank you for the talk. It's very sincere and content, and it's your personal experience. So my first, can you hear me? Just to quick confirm. Okay. So my question is, after 6 years PhD, everyone wants to have gain more from the PhD experience. But right now you choose to go to the industry and compete with the master student and some undergraduate students. Some of them are your boss right now. So how do you take this situation? How do you accept someone with only a master's degree guide to is your boss right now?
I didn't capture the. Can we type maybe?
So I think he was asking. So right now, when you enter the industry, for example, in Facebook, or for example, if your boss he only has a master's degree, how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Like, what's that? Meritocracy? Yeah, like the PhD doesn't tell you are better, right? Having a PhD title just is a certification that you complete your PhD program. It doesn't mean you are better than master. So I guess if your boss is better than you, listen to him. If your idea is better than him, then you try to convince him your idea is better. But I don't view the title, like the title the title shouldn't mean anything.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I guess, so we are coming to 1.5 hours, and I really appreciate you, John, to take this opportunity to share the advice with, oh, is there any other comment? Looks like there's another question. So this is definitely the last one. So I can paraphrase. So he was asking, I don't know if the competition between China and the US would inspire more investments to fundamental research. What is the take on that? Seems like right now this is a trend.
I don't know, and I don't care. Like, what can I do to change that? No, so.
Yeah, I agree on that. So let's thank our speaker again for sharing his useful advice in making these decisions throughout the PhD. And also thank all the audience for coming today. And especially for, we are running this talk series, the next talk is gonna be centered around consulting. So if you're interested, just follow our tweet, follow our WeChat account. We'll be releasing announcements. And let's thank our speaker again, and hope you have a great weekend.
All right, thank you. Good weekend.
Thank you, Yujin. Let's connect later.
People who are interested in a variety of career tracks, and let's keep in touch.
Oh, hey. Can I also introduce myself here?
Sure, go ahead.
Oh, sure, yeah. So my name is Zhang Zhao, and I'm now a PhD student in computer science in Georgia Tech. And yeah, I used to be a master student in University of Michigan. And yeah, I am glad to see you guys here. And I'm never thought like too seriously about what I'm going to do in the future. But accidentally I got added in the WeChat. I'm very glad. And actually I saw some friends who like do consulting jobs, and like it is a very appealing job for me, and I want to explore more and see what it's like. Yeah, thanks.
Jan, it's good to see you. We have been WeChat friends for a long time, but it's the first time I saw you.
Yeah. Yeah, nice to see you.
Anyone else?